Solomon seal is a herbaceous perennial that likes to grow in woody, nutritious, shady areas, and its botanical name is Polygonatum, and it's indigenous to Turtle Island. It's used as herbal medicine and used as a functional food in China, India, Pakistan, Iran, Japan, and it's the rhizomes and the young leaves that are used for medicine and food, and they require cooking, although they have minimal toxicity. There are 71 species of Solomon seal, and the biflorum and the multiflorum, the Polygonatum, multiflorum and biflorum are the common ones to be used in Turtle Island medicine, and Polygonatum odoratum is called yuzu and is the one that's used in Asian medicine. There's also one called Polygonatum cypricum, which is called huangjin. There's also Polygonatum kingianum and Polygonatum syrotina. So here we can see the leaves are alternate, not opposite, and when you lift it up there's an arch, and it has, you can see here, 2 flowers on each little stem. So this must be biflorum, Polygonatum biflorum, but you also have the multiflorum with lots of different flowers, and it's the roots that's used in medicine, and it's collected in autumn when all of this foliage has died down, or it's collected in early spring. I've seen that in some professional growers of medicinal herbs, they put flags down when the plant has grown, when the plant has died down, so they can find the roots to dig up. And the name Polygonatum means many knees in Latin, and it's because the root, the rhizome, grows, it looks a bit like galangal, but it grows with big knobbles in between each year's worth of growth, and they look like joints. And it's interesting that the roots of the plant look like joints, because this is a herbal remedy that has great affinity for joints, and it is a yin tonic. And yin tonics are very good for bringing moisture and softness and emulsion to dry situations, creaky joints, dry stiff joints, like particularly weight-bearing joints, like with osteoarthritis. So in Chinese medicine, its taste is sweet or gan, and it's cooling and a yin tonic. It moistens dryness, it moistens the sinews like comfrey, and it clears heat. It enters the lung and the stomach meridian, and it's used for blood deficiency syndrome, which includes symptoms such as vertigo, blurred vision, having floaters, lassitude, feeling sort of tired, insomnia, having poor muscle tone or tightness in muscles, having a pale tongue, having numbness in the extremities, having pallor, dry skin and dry hair. And what's interesting about talking about blood deficiency, that scientific study shows that extracts of the root elevated hemopoietic cytokines, that's chemicals released by white blood cells, and they include EPO, GSFF, alpha-tumor necrosis factor, interleukin 6, and that's through JAK1 and STAT1 pathways. Another study showed that polysaccharides in the plant modulate gut bacteria in a favourable way. So studies on the plant on the rhizome of this plant have shown that it's anti-tumour, anti-diabetic, hepatoprotective, neuroprotective, anti-osteoporotic, and immune modulator. It prevents ferroptosis, it's an expectorant, and conditions that it can be used for include many situations of dryness, so having a hoarse voice, having a dry cough. It's specifically used for sciatica. It's been used as a tonic where there's wasting with intense hunger. It's been used with hemorrhoids, for skin ulcers, and for weak urination. It contains quite small amounts of the cardiac glycoside convalescent, which helps the efficiency of the heartbeat, and it's a herb that is associated with longevity. The key major chemical groups in the plants are steroidal saponins, homoarome isoflavones, polysaccharides, lectins, alkaloids, and anthraquinones. It also contains the chemical allantoin that's been used for healing skin conditions and wounds. The root grows very slowly and often only grows about 3 inches a year. So when harvesting it, it's really important to think about sustainability of the plant and also keeping enough rhizome for the plant to continue for future generations. Another indication in Chinese medicine has been for ovarian pain, and it tonifies the kidneys. It also tonifies the spleen. It contains a chemical that's in other asparagus plants called asparagine, which is a component of cells, a non-essential component, but it's needed for the formation of cell structures. But what's quite interesting about asparagine, it's also needed for the replication of pox virus, and also for the replication of cytomegalovirus. So asparagine deprivation can inhibit these viruses, and blocking asparagine can also inhibit some cancers, particularly breast, head, neck and kidney. And asparagine also helps with the formation of acrylamides. While saying that, asparagine deficiency is very, very serious, and asparagine deficiency during development causes microcephaly, so it's quite an important amino acid. There's a polysaccharide from Polygonatum, cytonema, that demonstrated anti-fatigue properties through regulating osteocalcin signalling. The test that was used was actually quite cruel, and it was making rats swim. Polysaccharides in Polygonatum sibiricum and the steroid anthraquinones modulated gut bacteria and lowered the abundance of Clostridium, Enterococcus, Coprobacillus, Lactococcus, and Suturella. And they also realised that the immune modulating effects on gut bacteria actually affect gene expression involved in weight gain and taste perception, and this plant actually modulates gene expression, changing short-chain fatty acid synthesis and adipocyte differentiation. In the book Native American Ethnobotany by Daniel Merman, which I heard was taken from bulletins of colonizers, a lot of the information, he mentions Solomon seal. So he refers to Polygonatum biflorum as King Solomon seal, and he said that the Cherokee used it as an anti-diarrheal and for dysentery, that it was also used to treat breast diseases, in dermatology as a hot poultice of bruised roots for drawing out carbuncles. It was described as a gastrointestinal aid. The infusion of roasted roots was taken for stomach troubles. He described it as a gynecological aid by females with whites or profuse menstruation, and also as a pulmonary aid for lung diseases, and that the root was used for general debility. He said that the Chipwe used the plant as a sedative to ensure sound sleep, that the Menomine used it as an analgesic and mashed up the root for sharp pains. He said that the Meswaki used it as a stimulant, the root heated on coals and the fumes inhaled by an unconscious patient to revive them. He said that the Ojibwe used it as a cathartic root, as a physic and decoction for cough remedy, that the decoction of the root was used as the physic. He said that the dermatological use of the roots was a decoction applied as a salve to bruises and cuts, and in orthopedics the roots were applied as a salve to bruises. He says that the Cherokee used the roots for breads and cakes. The roots were dried and beaten into flour and used to make bread. The roots were spiced and ground and used as salt. And then he said there's unspecified young growth was boiled and fried and eaten. The vegetable leaves cooked and eaten as greens. The stems parboiled, rinsed with grease and salt until fat, and it was eaten as a pot herb. In the winter, the stems and the leaves were eaten with a bean salad and with Rangenjadum, which is Angelica and Ligusticum canadense, blanched and boiled for 3 hours in a can, and that the rhizomes were eaten particularly during winter. He also said that the Chipwe used the incense and the fragrant root burnt for fragrance. When one burns in a room before going to bed, it ensured a sound sleep and caused one to awaken refreshed, rested and feeling young.